It has been way too long since I was able to say, welcome to another edition of Let's Play WWF 2001. It is time for the invasion. I've been holding back, I should say, holding back this episode of this Let's Play series, and I realize now that this Let's Play series has been very much so been a victim of, well, real life, and also a victim of me not realizing certain things. And one of the things I didn't realize is how long it's been since I recorded an episode of this series. For that, I apologize, but what I can say is, let's hope we can, I do hope that we can recapture the momentum and continue to move forward with this Let's Play series, because that is something that I really, really want to do. And with that being said, let's take a look back at Judgment Day, which was the last recording of this Let's Play series, when Chavo Guerrero retained the light heavyweight title against Scotty 2 Hotty. The APA came up short against Edge and Christian. Eddie Guerrero defeated Jeff Hardy. Matt defeated Dean Malenko in an undercard match. This isn't Judgment Day, because oh, there it is. Okay. The Dudley Boys defeated Supply and Demand via disqualification. Raven won a hardcore fatal 4-way. The Rock beat the Big Show in their rematch. Brothers of Destruction ended the feud with Rikishi and Haku. Chyna retained the women's title. Kurt Angle won via countout against Chris Jericho. And Steve Austin retained the world title in the main event against Triple H and Chris Benoit. And as you can tell by the opening segment, that the feud between Benoit and Austin is far from over. And I don't know if you noticed, but Chyna and Lita's feud will continue, as will the Dudleys and RTC, and Eddie Guerrero and the Hardys will continue as well, but some new feuds. Okay, one new feud is starting tonight, and that is Edge and Christian versus the Brothers of Destruction. But also, if you don't see some of these feuds in continuance tonight, then that means that you will see them on SmackDown instead. But either way, let's jump right into this episode of Monday Night Raw as this series gets back on track and gets going again. And now, the first pre-show match, like I had been doing, including WCW alumni on the pre-show in matches, Juventud Guerrera makes his WWE debut, or WWF debut, in a victory against Jerry Lynn to retain he's not Cruiserweight Champion yet, to kick off his WWE career on a win, and also a 50 in-ring performance isn't that bad, to be honest with you. Pretty good start for Hoovy. And the Vampire Warrior also gets his first WWE win since his return. Yes, Gangrel has not worked on the normal show and has just worked on the pre-show since coming back to the WWE, but still, this is his first win since returning to the company. And now we kick off the show with the segment that I mentioned earlier, with Austin celebrating his victory at Judgment Day, but is interrupted by Benoit, who demands the title shot that he was promised, who demands that he gets a one-on-one match versus Steve Austin at King of the Ring for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. And never to be one to back down from a fight, Austin says, "You want it, you got it. Me, you, one-on-one at King of the Ring. You got it. And that means that the first match is set. Austin, Benoit, King of the Ring for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. And speaking of King of the Ring, let the qualifiers begin, because this match is the first qualifier for the King of the Ring tournament, and that means Chris Benoit, Perry Saturn advances in the King of the Ring tournament. And now, speaking of the King of the Ring, Hugh Morris walks into William Regal's office and asks Regal for an opportunity to prove himself and an opportunity to compete in the King of the Ring tournament, because he wants to integrate himself into the WWF way of life. And one of the ways that he can do that is getting into the King of the Ring and showing just how talented he is. And Regal agrees, signing him on for a King of the Ring qualifying match tonight, or first round match tonight, against Billy Gunn. Now Supply and Demand are against Taka and Funaki. I know you may have saw on Sunday Night Heat, Taka and Funaki actually competed and won on the pre-show, but the reason why they're losing right after winning is because Taka is actually leaving, because as a freelancer, he only wants to stay certain places for a certain amount of time, and he feels now is the right time to leave the WWF. So that's why they're leaving, because Taka is leaving. Losing, that's why, because Taka is leaving. And now, as I mentioned, even though they lost Dusty, RTC still lost to the Dudley Boys at Judgment Day, and Stevie Richards runs down the Dudleys, saying that these people should not be praising and cheering and yelling for the Dudley Boys, because that just makes them think that their behavior is correct. And that even in defeat, the right to censor is still far superior in behavior and far superior in this ring than the Dudley Boys will ever be. They are just barbaric Neanderthals. So as I said, the feud continues with the Dudley Boys. But now the new feud begins with Edge and Christian, Kurt Angle and Rhino all out at the ring, bragging and putting themselves over out at how successful their Judgment Day was. But before they know it, they're interrupted by Kane and The Undertaker, and Kane and The Undertaker want some gold, and they want the gold that is around the waist of Edge and Christian. They want a shot at the WWF Tag Team titles. Edge and Christian are scared and said that either they get their shot or they just come down there and take it. And Edge just says, no, we'll give you your shot. We'll give you your shot at King of the Ring for the Tag Team titles. And now we move to another match, just a match to get people on television. Haku versus Farouk. And now we move to the other segment that I mentioned between Lita and Chyna. As Lita calls Chyna out. Ignore the description here because I wrote a different description. That Lita calls Chyna out and they talk about their match from Judgment Day, and Lita offers her hand to Chyna and Chyna accepts it as a sign of respect, and then Lita says, "You want to prove how much of a fighting champion you are? You'll accept my challenge to face me again." And Chyna agrees and says, "I'd be honored to face you again because you put up a fight last time, and I look forward to it this time." So Chyna, the women's title, the tag team titles, and the world title is set for King of the Ring, but what I can say is this, that I don't necessarily know for sure that the women's title match that I just made will happen at King of the Ring in the way that I just announced it, with Chyna as the champion and Lita as the challenger. But either way, the next first round match for the King of the Ring tournament, Hugh Morris and Billy Gunn, and Hugh Morris gets the win against Billy Gunn. The reason why this is because Hugh Morris is still new to the WWF audience, and he needs to get wins like this to condition the fans that, yes, he may have been a WCW star, but now he's in the WWF, and now he's capable, don't look at him as a WWC, excuse me. Don't look at him as a WCW star. Look at him as somebody who's now in the WWF and trying to make his way in the company that won. But after the match, I had Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, Jim Ross and Paul Heyman rather, put over the King of the Ring tournament. Jim Ross gets notice that something happened backstage, and the camera comes up, and we just see officials surrounding somebody who looks like they got attacked, and it seems like, and we find out that the person that was attacked is the Undertaker, and Undertaker gets stretchered out of the arena. The reason why I did this is, number one, how many times have you seen Taker get stretchered out? And number two, what better way to build intrigue than have a guy like Taker get a stretcher job? And now we move back to the broadcast position as Jim Ross and Paul Heyman discuss what just happened to The Undertaker and how it'll affect Kane later tonight when he competes against Raven for the hardcore title. And Austin is set to compete later tonight in a tag team match with Kurt Angle against Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. Speaking of the hardcore title match, Raven comes up short against Kane as Kane successfully defends the title. And yes, I know that Kane has held the belt for quite a long time, or at least a month or so, without defending it, and the reason is because of his tag team with his brother, but that's why I did this. Following the match, Raven isn't done. Then Bob Holly runs in. Then Test runs in. Then Rhino runs in. Albert runs in. Just Incredible runs in. It's a full-out brawl for the hardcore belt, and there's 3 referees all around the ring, and just at random, you see Test, after Kane gets beaten down by a few people, Test runs in just as Kane is getting back up, hits him with a big boot, and pins him 1, 2, 3, and Test is now WWF Hardcore Champion. That's right, Test is the Hardcore Champion. And I don't know for sure how long Test will hold it, but doing it this way, well, this is, by the way, for those who don't know what I did, basically, this is how a hardcore title match would go in the WWF. Only all these people wouldn't always come out. A lot of people would come out, or enough people would come out a lot of the times, which would be beneficial because a lot of people would get on television that wouldn't get on television elsewhere. But this is the benefit of this game, that you're able to do this because you can have title changes in segments, and it doesn't affect the people's popularity. It doesn't affect anything, because then I could have had Justin Incredible win the hardcore title and have it not affect Kane in any way, shape, or form like it would have if I put him in a match and had Justin Incredible win. So that's the benefit of having segments and having the ability to do this. And now we head backstage with Kurt Angle entering Commissioner Regal's office and demanding a rematch against Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title, not at the pay-per-view, not at King of the Ring, but next week on Raw. And William Regal grants it, saying we needed a main event, and he passes out the decree that to avoid Jericho getting counted out and taking the coward's way out, the match will be no holds barred, no disqualification. And Angle smiling, and is approving of Regal's decree, because now, this means that next week on Raw, we will see Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title. And speaking of Chris Jericho and Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit defeat Austin and Angle in the main event. One reason and one reason only. I was actually going to try and use it as Chris Benoit getting a victory over Austin, but Jericho getting a victory over Angle still works too. But now we move to the part of the show that's going to take a lot of time. Because I do realize it's been about a month. It's been a while since I last did this Let's Play series. So, taking a little bit of time and explaining what this is about may not be a bad thing. I believe it was since the night after Backlash, back in April, WCW alumni, Diamond Dallas Page, Booker T, Bryan Adams, Stacy Keibler, Torrie Wilson, Brian Clark, I think Sean Stasiak may have been in there, not Sean Stasiak, Sean O'Hare, Canyon may have been there, Chuck Palumbo. They've been showing up in the audience on episodes of Raw since about the end of April. The only people that have acknowledged them was Jim Ross and Paul Heyman. Vince McMahon never acknowledged them, and no wrestlers acknowledged them. But now, for the first time, Vince is actually acknowledging the WCW alumni that have been showing up on the show in the arenas, and he's been telling them, and Vince tells him, that these people can't take no for an answer. They kept calling me and asking me to give them a job to help them. And I told them no. I told them, don't call us, we'll call you. And they don't put up a fight because they know I reserve the right to cancel their contracts and buy them out. Because they don't like the fact that they have no control. They don't like the fact that the WWF is run differently than their old stomping ground was. They don't like the fact that they're not a big fish anymore. Fact of the matter is, I have all the control. I have all the power. I can play each and every one of those people to my own financial gain and my own interests, and make them do whatever I want, because I'm Vince McMahon, damn it. And I won the war, which means I control everything. And if you want into this company, if you want in to the WWF, you have to do what I say, what I want, and be who I want. Because if not, then you'll be just like a handful of others that I tell, you're fired. It's great to be Vince McMahon. It's great to have all the power. WCW will live or die by my decision. And if those people who keep showing up on my show show up again, they will have to answer to Vince McMahon, because I will decide their fate. Because I am the only one that can. Another good show. But as I've been mentioning, that following Judgment Day, a big change would happen in the invasion as we slowly progress to more of a focus on the invasion. And that big change was Vince McMahon actually acknowledging the WCW employees and further explaining what he gained from buying his competition. So I hope that well, actually, there's something else I should say. I should try and at least explain what's going on with this series, what's going on with the other series. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to make excuses. I can't make excuses because there is no excuse that I haven't opened this series and this season since August 16th before today. It's now October 1st, and it's been about a month and a half since I actually did this series, and I apologize for that, because I know at one point this was one of the more popular series on the channel because of the concept that I have going, and I just hope that we could recapture the momentum of the series, because I still want to keep doing it, and I still want you guys to keep being interested in it, because we just started to, in a way, find our footing as far as things are concerned, because of actually, consistently getting good ratings. And I apologize for that I let it slip as long as I have, because if I would have known, or if I would have actually thought to check, I wouldn't have let it slip this long, and I apologize for that, but I hope we can recapture the momentum and get back on track with this series, because it is one of my more favorite series that I'm doing. And with that being the case, if you like what I'm doing and want to see more, let me know in the comment section below. But if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Till next time, later.